Okay, we are doing something a little bit different today. As you guys know, most of my or all of my content before this is just podcasts. I'm thinking about trying something new instead of podcasts because, yeah, like it's just kind of difficult having different people on there and having our schedules try to align. Because like a lot of our time, most of the time, our schedules don't align, so it's very difficult to just have people on. Plus, a lot of the like content with the podcast, whenever I try to record stuff like that, it would just like decide not to work for whatever reason. I don't know why. So like I think it was I've tried multiple things. I've tried the default photo booth, which is there it is. I've tried photo booth. I've tried cam.on. For whatever reason, it just a lot of stuff decides not to work. So yeah, we're switching to a different type of content. We're gonna see how this works. Where I do something very similar to, if you guys ever seen Ethan on Everything, he's a YouTuber. I'm doing something very similar to his channel instead of the podcast. So go give him a visit. He's a very good content creator. Yeah, we're going to do something very similar to what Ethan on Everything does. It's very similar to the Nerd Show podcast where we talk about anything and everything. However, it's not a podcast and it's just going to be me. And we're going to start with a tier list. Historical figures tier list. Everybody knows I'm a big history guy. Or anybody that knows me knows I'm a big history guy. I love it. It's amazing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the historical figures tier list. Let's start off with Aristotle. Yeah. Aristotle was the teacher of Alexander the Great. And we'll start off with Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, the king of Macedonia, first became in charge of his military at 16 years old and had a more successful empire than almost anybody throughout history. The only people that I think would rival Alexander the Great when he was at his prime, when his empire was at its highest, the only people I feel like that could really rival him would be the Mongolian Empire and the Roman Empire. And he was actually bigger than the Roman Empire. So, and then I'm not sure how the Mongolian Empire compares to him. I think the Mongols were actually a little bit bigger. But Alexander the Great, still, he's going all the way up here in S tier. If I can drag it. There we go. S tier. Alexander the Great. Because Alexander was just him, okay? He was a 16-year-old boy when he first got in charge of his military, when his dad left to go do some shit. His dad ended up dying and getting, we think he either... we don't know if Alexander was involved in his dad getting killed. We don't know if Alexander was the reason for him dying so that he could become in charge. However, his dad did end up dying, which left everything to Alexander the Great. So, he was the youngest conqueror throughout all of history. I'm 90% sure he was the youngest conqueror in all of history. And Julius Caesar, which we're going to get to later, I'm sure you guys know, I've talked about this in the podcast, one of my coworkers, my manager actually, I'm not going to say his name, but he thinks that Julius Caesar is cooler than Alexander the Great. He's not. Alexander the Great is better than Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar actually looked up to Alexander the Great. There was a time where Julius Caesar literally went to the statue of Alexander the Great. He went to a statue of him and just broke down and started crying. Basically going, how am I ever going to compare to that? Okay? You can't. Not only did Alexander the Great exist before Julius Caesar and was doing shit greater than him, but also he was the reason why Julius Caesar did a lot of the stuff that he did. He was a big reason why Julius Caesar ended up doing everything he did. If Alexander the Great did not exist, Julius Caesar would not exist as we know him. because he wanted to be like Alexander. So yeah, Alexander, for all those reasons and more, but I don't want to have a super long video, so I'm gonna cut off my little spiel about Alexander the Great right there, and we're just gonna put him in S tier for that reason, among many others. Aristotle. I mean, he was the teacher of Alexander the Great, and we wouldn't have Alexander the Great if it wasn't for Aristotle. However, if you look at the stuff he did, he's not as cool as Alexander the Great. Like, I mean, other than teaching Alexander, I don't really know of anything, like, super cool that he's done. So, he's definitely going to go up here, but he's going to go in B tier. I'm going to put Aristotle in B tier, because yes, he is responsible for Alexander the Great existing, but other than teaching Alexander the Great, I mean, I don't really know of anything super cool. I mean, yeah, he was a philosopher. He was incredibly intelligent. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's taking that away. Like, nobody's discrediting that from Aristotle. However, that's cool, but it's not as cool as being a conqueror. However, you taught one of the greatest conquerors in history and the youngest conqueror in history, so you're definitely going to get credit for that. So, top of B tier for now, or he's the only in B tier for now. Yeah. Also, I don't know why, every time I click anything on the screen, the camera just isn't there, and I have to go here to, like, actually bring it back. So, I don't know why, but we're going to have to do that. So, yeah, B tier. Aristotle's sitting in B tier, at least for now. Where's Julius Caesar? Let's get to Julius Caesar. Oh, by the way, we're also not going through everybody in this list. There are too many people. If I went through everybody in this list, it would be like a 3 or 4 hour video with how much I'm going to be talking about them. So we're only going through the major people in this list. So yeah, Julius Caesar. Right here, okay. Julius. He's going in S tier, behind Alexander the Great. Julius Caesar was definitely a G. He was an absolute Chad. So, he's going in there. However, not as cool as Alexander the Great. So, S tier, right behind Alexander the Great. He was cool. He was one of the major figures of the Roman Republic. I say Roman Republic because at the time Julius Caesar was alive, it wasn't the Roman Empire yet. It wouldn't become the Roman Empire until his adopted son / nephew, Augustus / Octavian, would become in charge. It wasn't the Roman Empire until the time of Augustus / Octavian. So yeah, Julius Caesar, S tier, right behind Alexander the Great. He was a cool guy. He was so cool that everybody was afraid of him and they ended up assassinating him. So, not the best way to go out, however, it's up there. Like, if you have to be assassinated because everybody's afraid of how powerful and how great you are and how much everybody loves you, like, if everybody loves you so much that they're afraid that if the other Roman government officials are afraid of you getting too powerful because the people love you that much and you're that intelligent and you're that dangerous of a person, like, if you're so cool that they have to assassinate you, then yeah, obviously you're a great guy. So yeah, S tier. Not don't get me wrong, there were a lot of people that were assassinated throughout history that were not great guys, but if you look at the reasons why Julius Caesar was assassinated, it is evident that he was a great guy. He was a great leader, a great conqueror, a good military strategist. So yes, he's going in S tier, right behind Alexander the Great. They're close. Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar are comparable. Don't get me wrong. They are comparable. However, Alexander the Great is going a little bit above Caesar because he was a little bit more successful. He had a little bit bigger of an empire than the Roman Empire, especially when Caesar was alive. Like, if you compare the height of the Macedonian Empire when Alexander was doing everything, you compare it how high his empire was when Alexander was alive versus the Romans, It wasn't even a Roman Empire when Julius Caesar was alive, but you get the idea how high the Romans were when Julius Caesar was alive. Alexander definitely takes the cake. He was more successful. I mean, Alexander the Great, his empire was even bigger than even when Rome was an empire. If you look at the Roman Empire when it was an empire and how high it was at its peak, and you compare it to the Macedonian Empire when Alexander was alive, the Macedonian Empire was still bigger and more successful. So yeah, Alexander's a little bit above. However, they are comparable. So next historical figure. God, there's so many people in here and they're so small. I have to I have to spend some I have to spend a good amount of time looking for him. Adolf Hitler. He's going in F tier. We don't like Hitler. F tier. Fuck that guy. We don't like him. Genghis Khan. Okay. Oh my god. Anybody that knows anything about me knows I love Genghis Khan. He's going at the top of S tier above Alexander the Great. I said it. Genghis Khan. Oh my god. I could go on a whole 2-hour spiel about Genghis Khan. He's that cool of a guy. He was so successful. His empire. When you think of the Mongolian Empire, who do you think of? Genghis Khan. Because he was the best ruler they ever had. There is no Mongolian Empire without Genghis Khan. And after he died, they didn't do as well. And that was for a reason, because Genghis Khan was that good of a guy. His name wasn't actually Genghis Khan, it was Chenghis Khan or Chinggis Khan. It was one of those because of Mongolian pronunciation. However, I'm just going to say Genghis Khan for simplicity because everybody knows him as that. So, yeah, Genghis Khan. Man, where do I start? Okay, I'll start with his origin story. Dude had a legitimate origin story. He grew up... Okay, so he was on the Mongolian steppes growing up. He had 2 brothers. Or he might have had more than 2, but there's only 2 that are important, at least. He had an older brother and a younger brother. So Genghis Khan, one day when he's a kid, his older brother decides that he's like, you know what, I don't like my younger brother very much. Like, his older brother decides he doesn't like Genghis very much, and he tries to assert himself as being better than him. So what does he do? He steals some animals that Genghis Khan kills. Well, his name was actually Temujin at the time. His birth name was Temujin. So Genghis Khan / Temujin, he kills some animals. His brother decides, you know what, I'm better than you. I'm going to assert myself as better than you. So I'm stealing your animals. Genghis Khan didn't like that, so he went to his mom. Halun, that was his mom. He goes to her, and he's like, hey, my brother's stealing my shit. Are you going to do something about that? And then his mom's like, oh, well, instead of fighting amongst yourself, you should really focus on the main problems. Genghis Khan didn't like that. He didn't like that explanation. So what did he do? Him and his younger brother, armed with bows, found his brother out in the woods. What did they do? They shot him and killed him. And then they went back, and their mom basically knew what they did. She could see what they did on their faces. So Genghis Khan was now a criminal. He ended up getting captured by some other Mongolian tribe, and was made to be a slave for them. Or he was an assistant to their slaves. So he was basically a slave for their slaves. He was like the lowest of the low of their tribe. He was the absolute bottom tier. So one day, when he was put under the watch of a young boy, he was put in stocks. Those like wooden things that hold your arms like this and your head. He was put in stocks. And one day when he was under the watch of a young boy in their tribe, I don't think he was a super young boy. I think he might have been like a teenager, a similar age to Genghis Khan. It was probably younger. I think he was like 13. I think the young boy was 13 and Genghis Khan was 16 at the time. So when he wasn't looking, he swung his stocks around, hit him in the back of the head, knocked him out. And then he snuck away and hid in some bushes and waited for everybody to leave. Then he fled, and then a young couple found him, freed him of his stocks. That's important. That comes up later on. And then now he's no longer a slave. He escaped that. Later on, Genghis Khan ends up finding this young couple during one of his military conquests. And he ends up helping them out of a bad situation. I think they were slaves for somebody else, and he frees them. I'm not exactly sure what they were doing. I might have to look that up. But I know Like, they were in an unfortunate situation, and Genghis Khan ends up helping them out. I know that. If you want to learn a lot about Genghis Khan, go to Extra History. They're a YouTube channel. They make very good content. They have a good Genghis Khan series. Yeah, that's like part of his origin story. There's more stuff that goes into his origin story. There's more stuff. There was a young boy that ends up becoming a military enemy later on, but growing up and even like a part of their adulthood, they were friends. What was his name? I forget his fucking name, but there was this young boy that Genghis Khan was friends with that they end up swearing an oath to be blood brothers, like multiple times. Twice when they were children. The first time, they traded handmade arrowheads. Second time, they traded dice made from the knuckle bones of sheep. And then when they were adults, like the third time was actually when they were adults. And they traded stuff as adults. I forget what they traded, but they traded some important stuff as adults. And they did it in front of both of their tribes and groups. So everybody saw it and knew it. Now later on, they ended up becoming military enemies because his best friend that he grew up with tried, again, asserting himself as better than Temujin / Genghis Khan. And then if you look at the last brother figure that tried doing that, he ended up killing him. So what does Temujin do? He kills his childhood best friend for doing that. Because, I mean, he didn't immediately kill him. It was this whole thing. And then Genghis Khan eventually lost patience in him and decided, you know what, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. And he ends up capturing him. And he does end up killing him. Now, he ends up asking for an honorable death, which Genghis Khan grants. He at least gives him that. So, yeah. Man, I've been on Genghis Khan for a long time. And I haven't even, like, scratched the surface. I've barely scratched the surface of everything there is to know about Genghis Khan. There is so much I could go on about. Oh my god. But I don't want this to be a super abnormally long video. So, we're moving on. Genghis Khan, top of S tier. Alexander the Great right behind him. And then Julius Caesar right behind Alexander the Great. Now let's see. Okay, who do we have in here? George Washington. George Washington. Let's move up. George Washington is... I don't know if he should go in A tier or B tier. Top of B tier. He's going in the top of B tier. Jesus, Aristotle, move out of the way. Okay, top of B tier. George Washington was like, I think he was 6'2". He was a 6'2" red-headed man with no teeth. And he was absolutely insane. They called him Mad George. And like, he was such a Chad, okay, that not only was he the first president, but also when he was fighting the British, at the Delaware, like he crossed the Delaware River, the frozen Delaware River, to fight the British on Christmas morning. That was such an unexpected move. Like, the British they didn't think he would do it. They're like, yeah, there's no way he's going to cross the frozen Delaware River and fight us on Christmas morning. Come on, who does that? Nobody does that. Meanwhile, not only did he cross the frozen Delaware River, but he was standing on it during battle, absolutely aura farming, looking like a Chad. He was standing on the frozen Delaware River in a way to where if he did fall through, he would have just died from hypothermia. So, like, dude was taking a risky move, aura farming on the frozen Delaware River during battle. However, it paid off. So, he looked like an absolute Chad. So, top of B tier. George Washington. Great guy. First president of the United States. Now, who else? I'm gonna have to take a second to look through everybody because there's so many people here. Plato. We're going for Plato. Okay, Plato. Now, where are we going to put Plato? So, Aristotle was... Okay, so Alexander the Great was taught by Aristotle. Aristotle was taught by Plato. Plato was taught by Socrates. So, I feel like since Plato taught Aristotle, I think it's only fair that he go in B tier right above Aristotle. Because we would have no Aristotle if it wasn't for Plato. Yeah, Alexander the Great was taught by Aristotle. Aristotle taught Plato. And then, or no, Alexander the Great was taught by Aristotle. Aristotle was taught by Plato. And then Plato was taught by Socrates. So it's going to go B tier, Aristotle, and then above him, Plato. And then I think Socrates should go above, just right above Plato. Where is Socrates, by the way? He's got to be on... Yeah, Socrates. He's right here. He's going right above Plato. Yeah, so it goes Aristotle, then above him, Plato, because he was the teacher of Aristotle, then above him, Socrates, because he was the teacher of Plato. So, yeah, I think that's an appropriate. I think that's an appropriate rating. Now, where was I going with this? Where was I going with this? Okay, now I'm pretty sure Socrates ended up dying because they made him drink poison because of how smart he was. They thought he was corrupting everybody in Greece. So they're like, nah, you gotta go. We're killing you. You gotta drink poison. And then in his last moments, he was still being an absolute Chad, an absolute philosopher. This painting right here, where it shows, like, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's pretty small, shows Socrates, you know, in his hand, right there he has the cup of poison. And then he's like, he's explaining, he's delegating, he's just like, still being a philosopher, being an absolute Chad, going on about how they are weak as a society if they cannot handle his philosophical standpoints and views because it's the truth, and blah 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 blah. He was being an absolute Chad, being a philosopher, right up until his last moments. So Socrates, greatest philosopher of all time. I'm gonna say that. I'll stand on that. Because if it wasn't for him, we would not have Plato, we would not have Aristotle, and then we would not have Alexander the Great. So Socrates, inadvertently through the butterfly effect, actually, no, he's going in S tier. Because if now that I think about it, we would not have Alexander the Great if it wasn't for Socrates. He's not as cool as Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan. However, he still deserves to be in S tier because if it wasn't for him, we would not have Alexander the Great or Plato or Aristotle. We would not have all of these people. And because of Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar ended up becoming a big guy. So if it wasn't for Socrates, we would not have Alexander the Great, we would not have Julius Caesar, we would not have Plato, we would not have Aristotle. So because of all of these people through the butterfly effect, Socrates is going in S tier. Bottom of S tier because he wasn't quite as cool as Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. However, he still deserves to be in S tier because of the fact that he did all that. Augustus, the guy that turned Rome into an empire. I think, yeah, S tier. Augustus is definitely S tier. Like, he just is. He's Augustus. I think bottom of S tier because he's not as cool as Socrates. Actually, I think Augustus is a little bit cooler than Socrates, actually. So yeah, Socrates is going bottom of S tier, and then Augustus right above Socrates. They're close, but I feel like Augustus actually was a little cooler than Socrates. Even though Socrates was a legit badass, he was still cool. We love him. Still S tier. So Augustus, Julius Caesar's adopted son / nephew, the guy that he wanted to be in charge after he died, ended up doing so much that his last words were literally, "I found Rome of clay, I leave it to you of marble." And then he turned to his close friends and family and loved ones, and it's just like, "Have I played the part well? Then applaud as I exit." That was his last words. No, look this up. Those were his last words. So yeah, Augustus, legit badass. Now, he ended up going to war. Okay, so if you look up, like, everything that happened between Julius Caesar, Augustus, Mark Antony, and Cleopatra, that whole little love square, because Julius Caesar ended up getting with Cleopatra, but then he died, and then Cleopatra ended up getting with Mark Antony. And then Augustus didn't like that because Mark Antony was supposed to get with his sister. And he was leaving his Roman duties to be with Cleopatra. He was distracted by Cleopatra. So he ended up going to war with Cleopatra and Mark Antony because of the fact that he saw Mark Antony as a traitor because he was being distracted from his duties as a Roman government official. He was distracted by Cleopatra, so he wasn't really prioritizing Rome. And he also was supposed to get with Augustus's sister. He was supposed to marry her, but he ended up leaving her to get with Cleopatra. So he ended up going to war with Mark Antony and Cleopatra. He ended up winning at the Battle of Actium. After the Battle of Actium, he ended up winning the Battle of Actium, which secured Cleopatra and Mark Antony's loss, which is the event that led to them killing themselves. Mark Antony stabbed himself with a sword, and Cleopatra killed herself with snake venom. And Augustus also ended up killing Caesarion, however you say it, which was the son of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, in order to secure his spot in charge. Because a lot of people would have believed Caesarion should be the next emperor and guy in charge. Like, a lot of people would have believed Caesarion should be the next guy in charge, so Augustus ended up killing him, so he would not have any rivalry. And then he ended up finding Mark Antony and Cleopatra's bodies. Now, he was against them. However, since they would have wanted to be buried together in Alexandria, Egypt, he did permit them to be buried together. They were enemies. However, he's fair. He's like, okay, I'll at least permit you to be buried together. I'll give you that. So yeah, he was a strict conqueror, but he was fair. So yeah, Augustus, top of S tier. Oh man, Christopher Columbus, bottom of F tier. Bottom of F tier. He's worse than Hitler. Christopher Columbus is going below Hitler. I don't care what any of you say. Fuck Christopher Columbus. One of the very few things I actually agree with, I don't like cancel culture, but one of the few things I actually agree with it on is they want to turn Columbus Day into Indigenous Peoples Day. Or like, whatever it's called. I think it's Indigenous Peoples Day or like Native American Day, whatever it is. And I actually agree with that, because fuck Christopher Columbus. Not only did he not discover America, for one, he didn't discover America. There's a reason why we're called America and not Columbia. It's because he didn't discover America. And also, he was so brutal to the natives. When he found the natives, he basically made them go, hey, you're going to give me all your gold. And if you don't, then I'm going to kill you. No, like dead ass. He brutalized the natives. He killed them for not giving him gold and being slaves. And he literally wrote back to the mainland. He's just like, yeah, these people are great. They would make fine slaves. He literally got excommunicated from the Catholic Church because of what he was doing to the natives. He was killing them. Like, he was just killing them off if they didn't satisfy him. So, he literally was excommunicated from the Catholic Church, which, I mean, the Catholic Church is known throughout history for being pretty brutal, because they killed off a lot of people. The Catholic Church killed off a lot of people throughout history, including Joan of Arc, which we're going to get to later. Probably, if she's even on here. But, yeah, he ended up getting excommunicated from the Catholic Church for killing so many people and being so brutal. Do you know how bad you have to be for the Catholic Church to be like, whoa, wait, hold on. Take his ass out of church. Okay, he is no longer one of us. You know how bad you have to be for the Catholic Church to say that? So, bottom of F tier, below Hitler. Fuck Christopher Columbus. Genuinely fuck Christopher Columbus. Okay, who's next? Albert Einstein. Where are we putting Albert Einstein? Okay. I think Albert Einstein, bottom of B tier, I think. He's pretty cool. He's not a conqueror, and he wasn't a philosopher like Aristotle, Plato. However, he was still pretty cool. He created the theory of relativity, Einstein's theory of relativity. He also was so smart that his biggest mistake, they call it Einstein's biggest blunder, he called it his biggest blunder too. Or Einstein, what he thought his biggest blunder was, he came up with a theory or like a series of math equations or whatever, like that he came up with it, and then he's just like, no, there's no way that could be right. If that's true, that would literally change the way we think of everything in existence and everything. So no, that can't be right. So he ended up getting rid of it, calling it his biggest blunder. Later on, after he died, people ended up realizing that it was actually true and that he was right. So Einstein's biggest blunder was not creating that. His biggest blunder was saying that was his biggest blunder. So yeah, Albert Einstein, legit guy. He also played a big part in the invention of the nuclear bomb, which, I mean, is good or bad depending on how you look at it. He created, yeah, he played a big part in the invention of the nuclear bomb, the world's first rice cooker. I'm sorry, that was bad. That was racist. I called it the first rice cooker because they dropped it on Japan. That's racist as fuck. I shouldn't say that, but I don't care. It was funny. Yeah, I shouldn't say that. So who's next? Is Jesus on this list? Because Jesus legitimately did exist. Now, whether he was actually the Son of God or not, and the stuff that he was saying was true, that's a different story. That was all bullshit. However, Jesus was legitimately a real person. And I don't think he's on here. How are you making a historical figures tier list and not putting Jesus as an option? I don't know who invented this, but that was kind of dumb. Whatever. Joan of Arc. We'll go with Joan of Arc next. Where is she? Joan of Arc. Okay. Now, she basically was kind of like a mother figure to her army. She was like, hey, all of you guys, you're not cussing. If I hear you swear, you're taking your ass to church. Also, no hoes. If I see any hoes in the vicinity of you guys, you're taking your ass to church. She was like kind of like a mother figure to the army, to the military. And her death was stupid as fuck. It was the Catholic Church ended up killing her. She's like, yeah, you're dishonoring and disrespecting God for dressing like a man. You're committing blasphemy. You're wearing man's clothing. And she's like bro. She's basically like, how? I'm wearing pants. How am I, like, I'm wearing normal clothing. How am I dressing like a man? She's like, nope. And the Catholic Church was like, nope, you're getting killed. So yeah, she had an absolute whack-ass death. And they ended up burning her at the stake to kill her. So she died for a stupid-ass reason. However, she did a lot of great stuff. She was fucking also a mother figure to like the military, which, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, every friend group of bros could use someone like that, someone to keep everybody in line, to kind of act as like a mom. Every group of bros could use someone like her to keep everybody in line. I'm gonna put her in C tier, above Albert Einstein, but below Aristotle, Plato, and George Washington. Yeah, I think that's fair. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Now, you guys already heard the whole like spiel I went on about, you know, that little love square between Augustus, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Cleopatra. Augustus/Octavian. His name was Octavian at birth, but he ended up changing it to Augustus. But yeah. I'm not going to go over that again, but you could rewind if you want to listen to that again. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, very well known. Where do I put her? I think Cleopatra is top of B tier. Above George Washington. Top of B tier. Like, let's be honest, she's a more major historical figure than George Washington. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt. She had a big, like, role in that little love square between Augustus, Caesar, Mark Antony, and Cleopatra. Like, she was, well, yeah, like, she was a major part in all of that. And, yeah, like, she had a big historical impact. So, top of B tier. Wait, hold on. Wait, is he in here? There's a specific Roman Empire, or not Roman Emperor. There's a specific Roman Emperor that I want to go over. Is he in here? Shit, I don't know if he's in here. Please, tell me he's in here. There's no way. He's got to be in here. God damn it. I was going to go over Emperor Nero, aka the worst Roman Empire. Roman Emperor, I don't know why I keep saying Empire. I was going to go over Emperor Nero, aka the worst Roman Emperor ever. Like, he is notoriously known for being the worst emperor ever. I would have put him at an F tier, below Hitler, but a little bit above Christopher Columbus, because fuck Christopher Columbus. So, yeah, Emperor Nero would have been in this little spot between Hitler and Christopher Columbus. And the reason for that is because he is known, he is the figurehead for terrible emperors throughout history. He literally killed his wife, his pregnant wife, and his child. Like, he killed his wife and child because she was inside of his pregnant wife. Killed his mom, okay? And then after he ended up killing his wife, you know what he did? This dude basically took a young boy, okay? He's just like, you look like my wife. You look feminine. Like, you look about almost the same as my wife. So you know what? I'm going to take you. You're my wife now. You're getting castrated. We're chopping off your nuts. Snip, snip. You're my wife now. That is basically what he did. He took an underage boy, castrated him, and turned him into his wife. Like, the first Roman emperor to get with a femboy, I believe. Like, don't get me wrong, I love femboys as much as the next guy, but if you're a grown-ass man forcing an underage boy to become a femboy and be your wife, that's pretty fucked up. Again, I love femboys, but no, that's not the way. Nero, you can't be doing that. No, that's fucked up. So yeah, he would have been an F tier. Even though he's not on this list, I don't think. If there was a search bar for this, it would be so much easier. But yeah, I don't think Nero is in this. Yeah, I don't think he is. So yeah, Sun Tzu, the guy who wrote The Art of War. Now, he definitely had a big impact. I think we all know. I think we can all agree in where I'm going to put him. He's going in A tier. Not S tier, because he wasn't a conqueror. However, he did write the basis for what a lot of these conquerors would use. So, wasn't a conqueror himself. However, he did write The Art of War. Now, I actually have a copy of The Art of War. Now, I've read it. Like 50%, more than 50% is just basic ass stuff. Like, yeah, make sure to feed your army. Get the high ground. If you're at a disadvantage or if you're outnumbered, you probably shouldn't fight the enemy army. Probably shouldn't fight them on their home turf either, unless you have an advantage. Like, it's just basic ass stuff, okay? But he still wrote it. He still is responsible for the creation of that. So yeah, he's going in A tier. Sun Tzu. Who else? Who should we go for next? I'm probably going to end off the video soon because I think we've gotten most of like the major people in here. However, we'll do one more. Who are we going over next? I think Abraham Lincoln would be a good one to go over next. Where is he? Where's Abraham Lincoln? Where the fuck is he? Abraham Lincoln. I know he's on here. He has to be. But, like, where is Abraham Lincoln? Why the fuck can't I find him? There he is. Abraham Lincoln. Come on. Sometimes it doesn't want to drag. Abraham Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln is responsible for the Emancipation Proclamation. So, I have a legitimate question for any black people that's watching this. Does Abraham Lincoln get the pass? No, seriously, like, he's responsible for the Emancipation Proclamation. So, like, if there was anything that a white guy could do to get the N-word pass, that's got to be it. That's got to be at the top of the list of things you can do to get the N-word pass, the Emancipation Proclamation. So any black people that are watching this, feel free to leave it in the comments. Does Abraham Lincoln get the pass? Does he get the N-word pass? Also, Abraham Lincoln, he was an awesome dude. He was a catch wrestler. Like, he was a wrestler who was undefeated in his entire career except for one match. I'm pretty sure he only has one loss. He was a catch wrestler, and I'm pretty sure he was a boxer too. So, Abraham Lincoln, he was a bro. He was a chill guy. So, we're putting Abraham Lincoln, I think he's going in B tier, above Albert Einstein and Joan of Arc. I think that's a fair rating. Yeah. Actually, I think he's going above Plato and Aristotle too. Just below George Washington. But yeah, this is the historical figures tier list. I'm going to end off the video here because I don't want it to be super long. I mean, it's 43 minutes. It's already pretty long, but I don't want it to be like ridiculously long. So if you guys want a part 2, feel free to leave it in the comments. If this video gets 2 likes, I'll do a part 2. 2 likes. I don't have super high standards. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Jackaboy. So yeah. See you later. If you like this better than the podcast, let me know, because I'm thinking I'll just do this type of content instead of the podcast, because it's a lot more convenient and easier to make. So yeah. I will see you guys later. Much love. You are much appreciated for watching this. Goodbye.